There's a way to do this. Anyway, let me go through some of the details of what was purchased. One of the items that was purchased was a Canon GL2 video camera, which is what you see in back of the room that's recording this lecture now. That's a 3CCD camera, whatever that actually means. It has to do with the color processors, I guess. And that was purchased for, I don't know, Eddie, what would you say? Was it about $2,400? Something like $2,400. I would suggest for somebody in the future, they look at HD, personally. I think it's better quality, and that's where we're headed, HD. They're a little more expensive. But that's just a regular Canon digital camera that uses tapes, digital videotape. And that was about, what, yeah, I guess it was not too expensive. We use Apple PowerBooks. We're using PowerBooks here, which are sort of the equivalent of laptops. Workstations would probably be best. Those are more powerful, more robust. I think that would be one of the best ways to go about it. We do have some workstations, but keep in mind when you're working on some of this material, I wasn't willing to stay here on campus till 3 a.m. Only midnight I sort of would leave, but not 3 a.m. So using PowerBooks has been a benefit because you can now do things at home. You can render in the middle of the night, which takes hours, and it's flexible. And it's actually good enough to do some of what we're doing. So that's the irony. But there are some limitations. It's not perfect, but it's good enough to deal with what we're doing. And then these PowerBooks are actually becoming more powerful in terms of RAM. I think these have only 1 gig. I think you need about 2 to really be comfortable. So that's actually improving. But again, the key was to use a PowerBook so that you can work at home and not be on campus. You can't take the computers home, on campus. So you can take the PowerBooks. What I've used for the writing purpose, what I sort of talked about, capturing the writing and capturing the calculator that I did. That wasn't done on a Mac. That was done on an HP tablet. And that has been a vital part of, I think, for at least the multimedia I've been working with, it's been important to use that HP tablet because, again, you could capture the calculator, you capture the writing, and you capture it in a QuickTime file. So I just transfer it via USB to my this PowerBook. So I have a QuickTime file. It's the same file format. So I can edit QuickTime, pure QuickTime files. Some of the hardware, again, we purchased were iPods. The iPods are actually, again, we want to test it and we want to make sure that it works well on iPods. You got to see it. You got to see what you're doing, because again, they're thinking quality. And then also on PSPs, so we purchased those. I actually purchased myself a Canon EOS 30 camera, partly because it's sort of funny. The school actually, for some reason, they didn't want to let me use pictures that they've taken of like students and locations. They weren't so eager to give it up, and partly the reason that they weren't is because they actually wanted to do they wanted to do some of the work, I guess, designing of websites and stuff. And they said, we're not going to give you this stuff. Unless we do it, we're not going to give it to you. So I talked to the powers that be, and the powers that be just said, hey, just go take your own pictures. So I got into photography, so it was a nice toy to purchase and use, but the school didn't buy it, I bought it, and it's been fun. But I've had to take my own pictures, and that's okay. Yeah. Is that digital SLR? Yes. It's a digital camera. It's a very good camera. It's a very good investment. I mean, you can't take a bad picture with these cameras. You can't. It's amazing. So down here is over here to the right, I guess if you can see it. Might have lost it. No, I guess it's not there. To the right there is the camera, is a Canon EOS. And some of the pictures on the website and even the multimedia, they're actual students. There are students. They're not models. There's ways you can do that. But originally, I actually purchased some pictures. My father, ironically, who passed away, he did a lot of this multimedia, and he actually did a lot of stock photo, and was a great photographer. I never asked him a single question on multimedia or photography, but I knew about it, and so I said, I wonder if I can find stuff. And actually, Adrian Ann mentioned stock photo, and I did, and there's a bunch of, so I did use a bunch of stock photo, and it's pretty cheap for licensing of stock photos, and you could use that to sort of augment your multimedia presentation or your website. But some of the pictures I have are actually pictures I took myself of students and of the college. Let's see, what did I do here? Oh, we seem to be going backwards. Oh. Let's try to go back. Here, I'll try to get back here. We're at, so this is hardware, we're at software. So the software is important. If you purchase a PowerBook, what you get is iMovie free on this PowerBook, and you could do a lot with iMovie. You could really do a lot with iMovie. I would say probably, I would think everything that I've done you could do with iMovie. I started with iMovie partly out of, well, there was a need at the time, so I used iMovie, but thought of actually doing a little more, things that are a little more sophisticated. And so what we wrote in the grant was actually something called training in motion, purchase of motion, purchase of Final Cut Pro. And so we purchased those two softwares. So motion is actually a QuickTime. It's actually anything that moves on your screen is done in motion. And it's actually a pretty nice sort of effect that we can use, except for, you know, it's not Flash, but it's QuickTime. So you can use motion to do some sort of movement. Final Cut is it's a professional video editing software. It's the industry standard in, you know, I guess in cinema. So we actually purchased Final Cut. We had training in Final Cut in editing. It was actually Viviana and I both went in motion and Final Cut. And so we learned how to, over a year ago, we learned how to use motion and how to edit in Final Cut. We learned some editing techniques which were interesting. And we had planned to actually, at least I had planned to actually get certified in both of these things, because if you're going to pay for it, you might as well get certified. Who knows? But we didn't get the equipment to practice on, you know, until maybe 6 months later. And I know I never got certified. So yeah, there is tests that you can take to be certified in motion and Final Cut. And actually, you have to pass them if you're going to take more advanced courses in Final Cut. But we did get trained in motion and Final Cut. I remember a little bit of stuff, enough to do what I'm doing. But I would have liked to have gotten the equipment sooner and gotten trained. I mean, I guess you got certified. But and some of the music that you heard in the background is Apple loops. Okay, you can purchase this stuff, and you can create you can use these Apple loops, and there's no sort of copyright infringement. You know, there's no copyright issues. So you can add Apple loops if you like in the background. Some people like that effect. Some people don't. So it depends on, you know, I actually found it sort of 50-50. Some people like it, some people don't. So I'm sort of up in the air about it. But you can purchase Apple loops and add these things to your multimedia presentations. And again, there's no copyright issues. Apple's designed it that way. So I think that's a very good thing. QuickTime Pro allows us to use different flavors of movie files. You know, MPEG-4, it's a more array of different compression that you can use. I'm not an expert at all in compression, because that's a whole other thing too, but you can get a lot of different you know, you can actually find what you need to do with QuickTime Pro.